Okay, calm down.
I also want to ask you about an interaction that you had recently with Rabbi Leo Dee. We're going to show that clip because you made a video about it. But can you set up who he is?
What was it? I think it was April 14th or around that time, mid-April, that two girls and a mother were shot and killed in the West Bank. Two settlers. They were a settler family, part of a settler family. And the father came out. The father's name is Leo Dee, and the father came out after this happened, and he was being interviewed, and he made a very bold and, in a way, impressive statement, I suppose, talking about right and wrong, and talking about contributing to world peace and contributing to goodness in the world. He wears the yarmulke, and they call him a rabbi. I don't know if he's a rabbi, but I guess they call him a rabbi. Perhaps he's a rabbi, and on, and values and so forth, and then talked about the evil of this of the deed that was done to his family. Now, I can't imagine the kind of horrifying pain he must be going through. So, I mean, that has to be made clear, of course. But he came out preaching to Palestinians, basically, about good and evil. Now, this man, about 10 years ago, decided to take his family. They're English. They came from the UK. Not only did they immigrate to Israel, which is horrifying enough. Not only are they Zionists, which is horrifying enough, but they chose to live in Efrat, which is a settlement in the West Bank. It's just between Bethlehem and Hebron, the southern part of the West Bank, in one of the most horrifically violent towards Palestinians settlements. And he made a choice that is a horrifying choice. He made a choice to participate in a bloody, brutal campaign of ethnic cleansing and genocide of Palestinians. And he is preaching to the world about being good and making the right choices and world peace. And I just couldn't take it. And, trying to confront a father who just lost his wife and two daughters is really a hard thing to do. So I had to think long and hard. But I thought it was wrong to let him just go ahead and keep preaching. And then he got interviews across the board. He was interviewed everywhere. And all the biggest, dignitaries came to visit him and so forth. And then he said, I love my neighbors. I love my Palestinian neighbors. Well, if you love your Palestinian neighbors, would you give them their home back and their land back? Would you allow them to buy an apartment and live in Efrat in the settlement? Of course not. So he loves his neighbors as long as they remain within this racist context of the Zionist entity in Palestine. So anyway, I came out with this video, a short one, and then I came out later on with a second one, a longer one, because I don't think it's okay for somebody to preach to Palestinians. You cannot disconnect what happened to him, the tragedy that had happened to his family, with the choices that he made. You cannot disconnect it. It's a political statement that he made. It's a statement of values. And he has no right to preach to anyone but himself. And he says how proud he is that he came to Israel, and he's so happy that he came, even now, even with this terrible price that he paid. Well, I just thought it was important to stand up and speak up and say something, and so I did.
We have the video, actually.
A few days ago, Rabbi Leo Dee, who just lost his two daughters and his wife in a shooting in the West Bank, delivered an impassioned speech. And in this speech, he talked about right and wrong, the need and the call by all religions to make the world a better place. And then he called on people to raise the Israeli flag. He has no right to pontificate. He has no right to preach to Palestinians. The point he was making was that the Palestinian who shot and killed his two daughters and his wife was a criminal, was a terrorist, and nobody should support him. And I feel that he does not have the right to say that. He brought his family from the United Kingdom 9 or 10 years ago to Efrat. So not only did he bring them to the apartheid state of Israel, he brought them to a settlement in the heart of the West Bank, a settlement between Bethlehem and Hebron, where some of the most racist, violent people exist. Coming and living in that settlement did not make the world a better place. And living in that settlement shows that he does not know right from wrong, good from bad. Living on stolen Palestinian land existing on stolen Palestinian water, enjoying the fruits of this beautiful piece of area, this beautiful land that exists in that part of the West Bank, with the vineyards and the olive groves on Palestinian land. How did that make the world a better place? How dare he preach to Palestinians? I cannot imagine his pain. I cannot, the mourning that he must be going through is beyond words. At the same time, we cannot disassociate the life that he led, that he chose to live, the place to which he chose to move, and the consequences for committing this crime. He participated knowingly, fully, and with full consent to what is known to be a crime against humanity, to what is known to be apartheid, to what is known as one of the most violent movements that exists today, and that's a settler movement within the Zionist movement. Leo Dee does not have the right to.
I should also add that for people who don't know, so Miko is the son of a very decorated Israeli general who became a two-state advocate. He's the grandson of one of the signatories to Israeli independence on his mother's side. And you also tragically lost your niece in a suicide bombing. So did you feel like you didn't lose your wife and daughters? And I'm not like doing the tragedy Olympics, but did that give you some, do you think that gave you some, did that make you more comfortable criticizing him?
No, there's nothing comfortable about criticizing a man like this in a situation like this. I mean, it wasn't a comfortable thing to do. I just felt that it was important to do, and I felt, I just had to do it. People will have to judge whether it was right or wrong. I have the right or I don't have the right. It's not about that. But I think that knowing what I know about the details of the choices that he made and where he chose to live and all of this, to allow him to stand and pontificate, it was just too much. It was just and not a single word about the Palestinian suffering, as a result of the creation of Israel, as a result of his choice to the Sefrat, the settlement where he lives, the society that he chose to be a part of. He said, I brought my children here so they would learn good values. What values? What good values are taught could they possibly learn in this racist, violent society that he chose to be a part of, that he chose to support? So right. I just had to speak up. I just couldn't take it. Whether or not I have the right, the moral right and all that, other people can judge, but I thought it was important to do.